China has established itself as one of the most important countries in geopolitics, business, movies, you name it. They have positioned themselves as this very important.
Let's correct that. We've positioned them.
Yes, we've positioned them.
Thank you.
As
they have not positioned themselves
as this incredibly important country.
Yeah. Yes.
That without them, you can't make money. You can't make your product. You can't release your movie. You can't X here. You need China to be successful. A lot of companies believe that. Shane, can you give me some insight into this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say, and we specifically want to address, what kind of launched this week. I mean, of course, we've got all these things happening with trade right now, and you've got all the tariffs, and it's become obvious that the Trump administration is targeting China because China is truly the reason why we have such a problem right now. And we're going to talk about the moon. I think that's probably the most topical thing right now. But we've allowed, going back to the 1970s, we allowed China. We saw it as a breeding ground for our companies to be able to, make more profits. We can have our products made over there. And then we can, so we set it all up for that to happen. Well, the Chinese government was like, man, this is working out pretty darn good. And once they realized that, hey, we've really captured, the United States as far as their manufacturing capacity.
Right.
Now let's build a plan to dominate the world. Let's remind you that China is a communist dictatorship. Okay. Communist dictatorship. All right. If you guys don't like Putin, right, you shouldn't like Ping.
Yeah. Okay? And everyone is like, I stand with Ukraine, Putin bad.
Right.
Gigi is way worse.
Yeah. And what's scary is they're not overt about it. So they come across as like this kind of nice, relatively, smile. Hey, buddy. I always go back to the South Park episode. They did it best.
Yeah.
Showing like China being your friend, but also stabbing you in the back.
Right.
Right. So they've spent decades undermining us with the ultimate goal to take us down completely.
100%.
China's ultimate goal, frankly speaking, is to control the world. That's their ultimate goal.
Right.
Okay. And under a communist dictatorship. So what does that tell you? I mean, did we really want Adolf to rule the world? Okay. Did we really want Putin or Russia to Stalin to own the world? No. Do we want Xi Jinping to rule the world? No, we don't.
No.
So we have to stop getting all doe-eyed over this money signs in our eyes when they're buying up all of our farmland and they're stealing all of our technology and they're destroying all of our businesses, right? So that they can ultimately dominate us. And the South Pacific, the South China Sea, they're turning all the islands there into bases so that we make it so that they can control shipping, which if they control shipping in the South China Sea, we can't deliver our goods to India.
Yeah.
So
the problem is so much worse than people realize. And when you say, oh, they're buying up the farmlands, they're putting small businesses and medium-sized businesses out of business, these are like, they sound like conspiracy theories or whatever.
They're not.
But they're not. These aren't conspiracy. These are actual provable facts. They are buying up farmland in the United States. They are taking over our food production.
Right.
They put
they're doing it near military bases.
Yes.
Which, I don't know. That seems kind of sinister.
That seems sus to me. Right. They've also put thousands of businesses out of business. Inventors who invented a product and then were advised to go to China to have that product manufactured.
Well, they didn't have a choice but to go to China.
They didn't have a choice because their investor told them to, whatever, right?
We don't have the resources in the United States to manufacture.
That product was then stolen, counterfeited, right? That company goes out of business. The guy loses his trademark, his copyright, his legal, everything. China then buys that up, takes the counterfeit factory they had for that product and starts selling that product again under their new business to the United States as an official
Undercutting
product.
the owner of the product, right?
Wild stuff. This is happening every day.
Right now.
And it's been happening for years. And everyone is looking the other way. And these hyper progressive actors and influencers and politicians, they complain about everything every other country does that is a mild atrocity to a big atrocity. They complain about someone saying a naughty word during a press conference, but they won't. But they praise Xi Jinping and China every step they get. You remember the John Cena video? Yeah. Because he accidentally name dropped Taiwan and they lost their minds. It's an insane thing. They commit genocide. They steal. They're actively taking over the world in slow motion, and no one will talk about it.
Right. And the reason why is because they have a huge, lots of people that our corporations want to access. Starbucks wants to sell them coffee. Tesla wants to sell them cars. The movie industries want them to go watch movies. They want access to all these things. And listen, China's smart. They know this stuff. So this is a warning. Like, they're allowing some of it, but China has been undermining and dividing us from the beginning. You do not think that they're on all of our social media sites?
Oh yeah,
they're bots and their people just stirring up shit, because their goal, they know, in order to defeat us, they have to destroy our culture. They have to destroy our democracy. Yep. So that's a big part of it. Now, in order for us to, we're not going to beat them by doing that. We also have to undermine their communism. So in order for us to slow them down and stop them, we really need to have regime change in China, which is not what a dictator wants to hear. But ultimately, and that's the reason why they're so tight, they don't let the social media come in. They control what their people see and hear, because they know they need to control their minds. If you allow too much democracy into their country, they're going to have a problem, because democracy flourishes.
Right.
Who would rather live under a tight communist dictatorship, or who would rather have some freedom and control over their own lives? Let me ask yourself that question. So
yeah, I would rather live free. Does that mean I might have a little less of that slave money? Yeah.
Well, it's people at the top of the Chinese hierarchy. Of course, they don't want things to change because they're benefiting the most, just like the Russian oligarchs, same way. But the latest news that's a little even more disturbing is you've got China right now. So here's the thing with China. Right now, they're accusing the United States of stopping their lunar partnerships with other countries. So apparently, and I don't know how true this is because I haven't been able to follow up on that, but the United States may be trying to block some of China's partnerships with other countries, because they ultimately want to go and build a nuclear power plant on the moon by 2035, and they want Russia's help doing it. Their ultimate goal is for the moon to be a part of the People's Republic of China.
I'm pretty sure we saw this in a James Bond movie, right?
Well, it's usually a bad guy, not a whole country.
Right. You're right.
Right. So here's the thing. So let's say China is able to take the moon, because we're so divided fighting amongst ourselves that we can't pull our crap together to compete with them. And then they go and take over the moon, right? So they've got the moon, which allows them to have easier access and control of space. I don't know if you guys knew this, but the moon is worth, check this out. The metals on the moon is worth about $2.5 trillion. Just the metal on the moon. Okay. The helium on the moon is worth $1.5 quadrillion.
What?
Okay. So once you have control,
you say quadrillion?
Quadrillion dollars.
Why are we not there right now?
Well, you got to find a way to process it. You have to find a way to get it back. You got to find a way to
figure it out.
But here's the thing. Once they have control of the moon and they have space dominance, they can start taking out our satellites. Then how hard would it be we can't even tell if they're dropping nuclear missiles from us from space.
No.
So the thing is
it's very bad that that Russia and China want to team up and take over the moon. That sounds so insane to me.
Right.
Bro, if this wasn't coming from Reuters, I'd be like, what? It sounds like an article you would read on the Babylon Bee.
It
Like,
does. But
Russia and China team up to take over the moon. What?
I mean, so here's the thing, like what we have to remember is, like, all I'm saying in this whole thing is don't relax on China. Don't let them say, you know, hey, we're the good guys. They're not the good guys. Their ultimate plan is domination. Okay. And listen, it's one thing, like if the UK was trying to dominate us, okay, cool. They're almost a democracy. It's close. At least you got one way of life, but to live under communism rule and dictatorship, nobody wants that. And we have to continue to fight that. So we'll have to see, you know, which government is going to support keeping China in check.
This is what the article says on Reuters. By the way, this was 3 days ago. This came out 3 days ago. And there's other articles, but this one is the most trustworthy, in my opinion. In a presentation in Shanghai, the 2028 mission's chief engineer, Pei Zhao, showed that the lunar base's energy supply could also depend on large-scale solar arrays and pipelines and cables for heating and electricity built on the moon's surface. This is a plan. Russia's space agency, Roscosmos, they have the coolest names, said last year it planned to build a thermonuclear reactor on the moon's surface with the China National Space Administration by 2035 to power the ILRS. The inclusion of the nuclear power unit in a Chinese space officials presentation at the conference for officials from 17 countries and international organizations that make up the ILRS suggests Beijing supports the idea, although it was never formally announced. Of course it wasn't.
Hey, so guys, just so be aware. So this is all we're saying. All right. And I know, listen, people stop watching when we start talking about China. I'm going to tell you something right now.
Oh, do people stop watching, or does the system stop promoting?
I don't know, but I know we have less viewers right now watching than we did when we started.
I know.
And here's what I'll tell you. Listen, I know a lot of people, they don't want to talk about this. It's kind of, you know, listen, don't stick your head in the sand about this. We've been sticking our head in the sand for 40 years. So, you know, listen to this, make up your own mind what you think, and just be aware, because China is banking on the fact that we don't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up to them. Right now, this whole tariff thing with Trump, you know, they're basically saying, hey, we ain't doing nothing. And they haven't blinked yet. Okay. Right. And now Trump's kind of feeling like he's going to back off. I doubt that's the case. I think it's a negotiation. But the only way to keep them in check, and this is what a lot of China experts say, the only way to keep China in check is to show that you have more resilience than they do. So we need to just make sure China knows we are not sleeping on this. We are keeping an eye on you, and you're not going to get away with some bullshit. That's all I'm saying. So hopefully, you know, we're getting the message to whoever we can.
Yeah, hopefully we are. All right, let's move on over from China to judges here in the United States.
From China to judges.
Such fun topics. Okay.
I mean, I know they're not fun topics, but they're, you know, important to talk about.
They are important. All right, so we got judges in New Mexico. We got judges in Arizona. We got judges in Wisconsin. And they all believe that they are the next, what's that movie where the guy gets the Jews out of the concentration camp?
Anne Frank? Oh, no, you're talking about, I can't remember, but yeah, I know.
Something with an SH.
Schindler's List.
Schindler's. So thank you. All these judges think they're the next Schindler.
Judges, asshole.
And they're protecting these poor, persecuted illegal immigrants from being sent to death camps.
I mean, I don't know.
There might be people right now watching this that heard what I just said, and they're like, that's exactly what they're doing. Hello?
Well, we don't know. We don't know what's going on in El Salvador.
They're being sent to death camps.
We don't know what's happening in their prisons in El Salvador for sure. But
just like Germany had concentration camps, El Salvador is America's concentration camp. Look, you know why the people that were sent to El Salvador were sent to El Salvador? Shane, can you answer that question?
Why they were sent there?
Yeah.
So we didn't have to pay for them here.
No, but what? But why specifically that one guy was sent to El Salvador?
Oh, because he said, "I'm down. Bring him in. Come on."
Because he's from El Salvador.
Well, the one guy, yes, the one guy, yeah. There's the people from El Salvador have to go back to El Salvador. I'm sorry.
It's just not that hard. You came here illegally from another country. You got to go back to that country.
Yeah. Now we have to be clear. Okay. All these people that are being targeted right now, most of them are suspected gang members of certain countries. A lot of the ones that we're talking about here. There are people who are here illegally and they came in under a system protected by our government. So if you came in and you pleaded like, you're in danger, you need asylum, there's a process in our country that you have a legal right to go through with an asylum court case. So it's really important. And this is what a lot of people are arguing right now with Trump is they're saying he's breaking the rules. He's just shipping people out. They're not getting their day in court. The reality is that all of these people do need to get their day. And the reality is most of them do get their day in court and then it gets pushed out. So the argument is, and this is what Trump's saying, look, if I can't deport these people that came here illegally, they're going to be here for between 5 and 10 years before they even get to court. So there is
if they make it to court, because a lot of these people were given court dates and they just skipped the court date.
Right. So, but the ones who've been here, like the ones who came in 2023 and 2022, their court dates have yet to show up, and some of them are being deported.
Sure. Whenever they talk about due process, what they are leaving out when they go, these people are being deported without due process. What they're leaving out is that all the ones I checked, and maybe there's a couple of people that didn't, but all the ones I've checked missed court dates.
Yeah, usually they do because they know that if they go, their asylum case is going to be thrown out and they'll be deported. So guys,
they got due process and they decided to forego due process by not going to court.
But the problem is, Brian, here's the problem. We let 20 million people come in this country in the last 5 years, and they haven't had court cases yet.
Yeah.
And you know how long it's going to take to have court cases for 20 million people? And the Democrats are like, hey, yeah, that's right. They get to stay. So the problem is this is a problem that's coming up. Now, these people that are in trouble, they're especially the one in Wisconsin was at court because they had broken the rules. They had beat up a woman and a man, right? And they got in trouble. So they were in court and I said, here we go. You're being deported, right? They're at their trial. So anyways, you're going to pick up on that.
Yeah. So let's talk about which ones are you talking about? New Mexico or
that's you got Wisconsin. Do you have Wisconsin's there? Yeah. That's the most interesting one.
All right. Let's look at what I want you to see. I just love this the headline from Fox. Such a big difference between the Fox and CNN headlines.
Well, let's see.
CNN's like judge arrested and charged in federal account for allegedly obstructing immigration agents. And the CNN version's like, New Mexico judge wife tried to hide evidence of illegal alien gangbanger. That's a big difference. Let's talk about the Wisconsin one first.
All right.
So, a Milwaukee County Circuit judge was arrested by the FBI Friday and charged in a federal court for allegedly helping an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest. It's so funny, like this exact same story on Fox. It's totally, it's the same story, but totally different words. Judge Hannah Dugan is facing 2 charges for obstruction and concealing the individual from arrest. She made an initial appearance in court and was released. The arrest on federal charges is an escalation in the Trump administration's focus on judges' conduct. Blah, blah, blah. We believe Judge Dugan.
It's Dugan.
Thank you. And Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse. She did, for sure. Eduardo Flores Ruiz, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest. FBI Director Kash Patel said on X in a post Friday morning, thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on...
They did. They actually, through the public, chased him down. while he was at court for harming a man and a woman, beating up a man and a woman, basically.
I just think it's so
domestic
funny
violence.
that the director of the FBI on Twitter is like, agents chase down the perp.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah, I know. Perpetrator, suspect, whatever.
Yeah.
On foot, and he's been in custody since. But the judge's obstruction created increased danger to the public. That's true. So basically, I'm not going to read the rest of it. What happened was ICE came to get the perp, right? His name was, who cares? Eduardo Flores Ruiz. Hyphenated name. That's weird. I've never seen that on that's a new thing to me.
He came into the country in 2023.
Right.
Illegally.
Right. And so the ICE came to get them from court. The judge basically was like, oh, he went that way. Like they do in like cartoons in the movie. When the cop runs by, like, have you seen this guy?
No, she was actually overt about it. No, she wasn't even overt about it, bro. She was screaming at the ICE agents.
Really?
Yeah. So she basically went up against the ICE agents and was screaming at them to get out of my court, right? And then sent him over to like whoever's in charge of that courthouse. And then while the ICE agents were dealing with the main judge in the courthouse, she like told him and his attorney to go out the back, open the door to go out the back, and said, "Get out of here."
Really?
You can't even make this shit up. It's like a movie or something. Yeah.
That's so weird. So it wasn't like he went that way. It was an overt. Okay. So Tom Homan, you know who that is, right?
Oh yeah.
The borders czar.
The border czar.
Czar, yeah.
The actual border czar.
He said on X, nobody should be surprised by the arrest of 2 judges. No one should be surprised by the arrest of 2 judges. I mean, if 10 years ago, if you told me that judges were being arrested, I would be surprised.
No, I'm surprised today.
Right.
Honestly, I mean, we haven't arrested any judges for anything. This is new.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
This is what he said on
I'm
Twitter.
glad.
Yeah, I'm glad too. Nobody should be surprised by the arrest of 2 judges. I have said many times within the past few months that people can choose to support illegal immigration and not assist ICE in removing illegal aliens from our communities. But don't cross that line. If you actively impede on enforcement efforts, or if you knowingly harbor or conceal illegal aliens from ICE, you will be prosecuted. These actions are felonies. More to come. Damn.
Yeah, I mean,
Damn,
listen, the left wants to tell you that the government is overreaching, and this is the first. And no matter where you look, it's like this is the first things that Hitler started doing. He was taking out judges. Then he was taking out the media. Let me tell you something. If you're breaking the actual laws, and listen, Trump didn't change the law. Okay, the law is still the same. You can't impede the federal government from doing what they're supposed to do. And no matter if you're a judge, if you're a cop, if you're whoever you are, you're not. It's illegal to do that. And for the most part, in the past, under let's say the Biden, presidency, they would have looked the other way. It would have been no big deal. It's like the BLM riots and destroying all of our cities. And, they just didn't care enough to do anything about it.
Yeah,
so, but
entire police stations burnt to the ground and not a single arrest made.
That was illegal as well.
Right.
The problem is nobody was prosecuted.
Right.
So, so the problem is now the people are being prosecuted saying, oh my God, it's Nazi Germany. What's going on here? The thing going on with Harvard University, and they're allowing students to burn things and keep other students from going to school. And so the Trump, hey, we're not going to give you guys any money if you're going to let these people come here. And Harvard's like, oh my God, the government's shutting down the universities.
This is our freedom of speech. How dare you take it from us? It's like, no. Right. You know what's stopping you from saying it? We're saying we're not going to support it.
Right. We aren't going to give you money.
We are not. We do not have to give you money while you are doing things that is wrong. Right. And you know what? No one, I don't think anyone should get federal money, okay? Unless you are doing a job for the people, an actual federal job. I don't think any colleges or universities should be getting a penny from the Fed.
Especially private. You might know a lot of the private universities get money for research. The federal government gives them grants, so because they're working on, the cure for this or that or the other thing. So, or studies, and that's why a lot of these colleges. But that's also a pat on the back, a way to get more money. It's also,
Right.
I don't think it's always honest. But whether it's colleges, whether it's these judges. I mean, you have the judge in New Mexico, which I think you were going to pull up, where they had this illegal immigrant in their home, right?
Right.
And they were protecting him while giving him weapons.
Before we leave this,
other gang members.
I want to go there, but I want to read the very last part of this. Okay.
Go ahead.
This is from Gwen Moore, Representative Gwen Moore. Federal law enforcement coming into a community and arresting a judge is a serious matter and would require a high legal bar. Yes, that's true. She added, she's very alarmed at this increasingly lawless action of the Trump administration, and in particular ICE, who have been defying courts and acting with disregard for the Constitution. Full stop. I looked into this, and there is no point where they defied the courts. Some would argue that they defied the courts when they say they're not bringing that dude back from El Salvador. But they said, we will supply the plane if the president of El Salvador decides he can come back.
Right.
So we know they don't want him to come back, but technically they aren't disobeying the courts.
Well, and at what point do, I love checks and balances. I think it's a great thing. I don't want Trump to overstep his bounds, even if that means he can't accomplish some things, because that's the way our country was created.
Right.
That's where our country was made. We need these checks and balances because when the other side gets into power, we don't want them to have unlimited power either. So it's a good thing, but there has to be controls on some of these judges. We've got so many, like a circuit court judge, a district judge that has so much power. You really need to keep that Supreme Court third. It really needs to be less power in the lower district courts and more power to the Supreme Court, I think. But
I do not know why these circuit judges have so much power. It's so it's insane to me. I don't think unelected people should have that much power.
Well, the problem
I don't get, and I know, I know that's how it works.
I know,
I
but
don't give a shit.
The reason why the problem is the Supreme Court can only handle so much. There's only, so many cases they can hear. It has to come up through a filtering system. The problem is we need to get faster. So the problem is they slow something down that Trump wants to do, and then they drag it so he can't get it done. That's the whole process of politics in this country. We need a faster process to get it through. If the judge says no, you can't do it, we need to be able to quickly, have that ruling looked at to see whether or not it can be, instead of drawn out. And that's kind of what ends up happening.
So here's an idea. What if judges are elected? I'm not saying elected by some random guy. Like, they're obviously...
Then it'll all be political, Brian. It'll all be political.
No. You have to have a law degree. You have to have all the same...
No, but it'll still be... If you're elected, you're a party. You're part of a party. So now you'll have Democratic, and you already do to some degree.
It's already that way.
People need to be married to the law, period.
I mean, how do you ensure that? Because there are so many of these wannabe Schindler List corrupt judges that are doing everything in their power to usurp the will of the majority of Americans.
There may be nothing that can be done about it. That's the problem.
Wild.
If you elect a judge in a Democratic area, right? That means that all of your central city, big city judges are all going to be Democrats, and they'll become even more political. At this point, if you have an appointment, at least you have the chance of there being some sort of, middle ground for these people. And what they need to do is they need to incentivize the idea that you don't pick a political side. Our country needs to create a way that judges, what's the scale, right? The balance of justice, right? They need to be balanced.
Yeah, justice needs to be blind. Lady Justice is blind.
But a lot of them are interpreting the law in their political direction. And that's part of the problem. Like, listen, if they're saying that Trump needs to provide due process for all these people, that might actually be the law. And as it is, now the question is why was Obama able to deport a bunch of people? Why was Bush able to deport a bunch of people without, making sure each one of those people had the proper due process? So, you can't only obey the law when it's good for your party. And I think that's one of the issues we
Yeah,
have
those
here.
are facts. That's true. The law has to be totally blind. Um, and the reason for that is because laws are voted on by people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they aren't voted on by people, they're people that were voted for create those laws.
Yeah. Or there were judgments that there's precedent for something happening. So
Right.
that's how a lot of our legal laws occur.
So the power filters down to the people, which is why the
Yes.
law needs to be completely and totally non-political and blind.
100%.
There is we're setting a very interesting precedent. What'd you say? What'd you say? That word? I can't say
Precedent?
Yeah, precedent. Precedent for lawfare in this country, and it's getting to the point where I'm actually worried that now that Republicans are in power, and the MAGA isn't, MAGA is in power.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that they don't fall in that same trap and
They go
start
too far.
using lawfare and going too far the way liberals and Democrats did. I have a problem with that. I said it when they were using that to stop Trump from running, and it failed. I hate this more than I hate anything in politics. And if the right starts doing it, which they usually do, like if you look at the way the pendulum swings, first it was one side, it's all about freedom of speech and right to all this. And then it was the other side. And then like 10 years later, it reverses roles. Una reverse card. And now the right is up against freedom of speech. And you guys think I'm crazy, but this has happened. In the early 90s, remember Satanic Panic? Remember the Howard Stern radio shows? I remember that. It was a part of my early teens where games and books were banned from being on school grounds because religious Karens complained that they could be demonic. I remember Howard Stern being fined off the air for almost a year because religious Karens usurped the will of the law and went against freedom of speech because they didn't like the guy. I remember this stuff. Now, it switched, and then now the liberals the Democrats and the liberals started doing it. But just because the right is in power now doesn't mean that they're not going to go that route. And we've seen some of these hyper fundamentalists online that were super freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom, MAGA, and now you start to see them start using their platform that was developed off of people who also love freedom to try to religiously force their ideas, cover up. What are you talking about? Boycott this movie because there's a gay person in it. Like, hey, you know what, dude? Chill out. You cannot love freedom of speech and then the second you get power, decide only the speech you like.
Well, it's happening in the NFL right now. So today, Deion Sanders, if you're familiar with football, everybody knows Deion Sanders, one of the greatest NFL players of all time. His son came into the draft and nobody drafted him. He was like supposed to be the second quarterback picked. He wasn't picked till the 5th round today. And for the last couple of days, people have been talking about how it's racist. Nobody wants a strong black man to be a part. I mean, it really became divisive, all because this young guy wasn't chosen. And so the first thing people run to is this divisiveness, right? And I think that's the one thing that's going to be difficult as we become more transparent as a government. And you got to understand, governments are not transparent generally. And the reason why governments are not transparent is because when you have the will of the people pressing against you, you don't get to do what you want to do when you're in power as much. You have to conform to the will of the people. Well, for decades and for generations, the people have been in the dark. We've all been in the dark. We were fed news stories. Now it's starting to get to a point where we're starting to see the bigger picture. We have more input on what's going on, and it's getting harder. So we're going through this changing period in our government where, how much of it can they accomplish without us knowing about it, or how much are they going to have to take into consideration what we think? And I think that's why things are becoming more divisive. So how is our government going to change over the next 20 or 30 years to kind of include this fact that citizens are more knowledgeable now of what goes on in government and how's that going to impact change. I think we're at a point where we could either implode and destroy, or we could become something better. I really hope we become something better.
As do I. Really quick, just you want to also recap what happened here in New Mexico?
Yeah, I was talking about it earlier. So basically, you have these. You have a judge and his wife who had taken in a Tren de Aragua gang member. Allegedly, he had apparently all the tattoos. They were staying with him. They gave him guns to go do gun practice. We're not exactly sure how much in bed. Looking at the family, the judge seems to be Latin in descent, in as a descendant, like probably a Latino. His wife definitely. I don't know if there's some sort of relationship, because you got to remember, all these illegal families that come here, they usually already have someone in the United States that they go to.
Right.
So it's possible that this person might even be somewhat related to them marginally. And so they've now, despite being a judge, have looked the other way to help their family. It's a very complicated situation, but the bottom line is, they're assisting this potentially very dangerous person. And I don't know what the plan was. Why are you giving them guns to go do target practice? Like, what?
Weird.
What are you going to do?
Weird thing. What's the point
Right?
of that?
And so they're also in custody as well. So we'll see how it shakes out. And we do need the Department of Justice to be transparent and do the right thing. So far, I'm very disappointed in Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, because we've gotten nothing. We didn't get enough on JFK. We've got nothing on Epstein. Okay. Nothing. All right. And it feels like it's just being put away. And we still don't know anything about the guy who tried to assassinate Trump in Pennsylvania. So we have answers we need, and they're not giving them to us, even despite the fact that they said they're going to, which is not transparent.
Right. Okay.
So that's troubling for me.
Yeah. Okay. So can we talk about that, Rook? I know it wasn't on the list, but this is something that actually bothers me. I don't understand, and maybe you can. You're smarter than me when it comes to this stuff. Like, you understand this more. Why is it that Pam Bondi comes out? She'll tease the Epstein file list. She'll say how huge it is, and dump trucks full of evidence, and all this stuff, periodically, and then nothing. I'll
tell you why.
Nothing, bro.
Yeah, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because what she thought when she made those statements, the truth ended up being something different. All of a sudden, the information that they got, either they didn't get any information, which is very possible that everything was destroyed already, and that's going to be embarrassing, or the information they got is going to make Trump look bad in some way, or is going to make their party look bad, or make them look bad in some way. And so it's one of two answers. Either there's nothing, or there's something. And if there's nothing, they need to come out and say, it's going to look bad no matter what. If they come out and say there's nothing, then people are going to say, well, you're hiding something.
Right.
If they come out and say there's something, and they show what it is, then it could hurt their process. Either way, it's not transparent, and it's bad.
Yeah, and so I've seen that. I've seen that theory that you just mentioned, that perhaps Trump was on the list. Like,
it's possible.
Literally a couple days ago, there was an MSN article where it said Donald Trump named repeatedly. This was the headline. Here, let me show you the headline. Donald Trump named repeatedly in Jeffrey Epstein's files released by Pam Bondi. You know what?
The only problem with that.
You want to know what's not in here?
What?
They say that's the headline. That's the headline, by the way. And then they go on to say, "Is that why?"
Yeah. Any idiot can write a headline.
It's so evil, dude.
Yeah. No. So here's the reality. Now, if Trump is on that list, I will be shocked, because there's no way he would have gone in transparent, knowing he was on the list, and allowing Pam Bondi just to go full nilly like this. They would have come in, and if he was on the list, they would have said, we're going to do what we can, find out what we can. So if he's on the list, it's weird. Okay. Really weird that he wouldn't know he's on the list.
For real. Yeah. This is a really good point.
Yeah.
Someone just said a first-time viewer. Thank you, Sally. He or she says first time watching the show. Love topics. Well, he also says if Trump was on the list, they would have released it years ago.
Oh,
Boom,
yeah.
bing,
It would have been done.
bing.
Yeah, that's the way they kept him from being elected. Good point.
Easiest way to stop Trump from becoming president is just to go full ham and release the list. Oh, there might be other people you like that might get outed. Who cares? Dude, these people hated him to the point where there were a couple of assassination attempts. They did everything to stop this man from running for president. If he was on that list, they would have sacrificed Bill Gates to the liberal gods to make sure Trump wouldn't become president.
So I'm really leaning hard. You're 100% right. I'm really leaning hard to there is no information.
Right.
There are no tapes. There is nothing. It was freaking destroyed. Just like anything in the JFK files that would have made the CIA or the president an accomplice at the time. I just think that stuff doesn't survive. And the only reason it does survive is somebody trying to keep themselves from getting killed. Well, guess what? Most of those people are already dead. So I just feel like the bad guys got the info and they made sure that the world's never going to know what happened.
All right. So this is from the Irish Star. I agree, Shane. This is from the Irish Star. Trump and Bondi slammed for hiding Epstein client list before Virginia. I can't say this person's last name. Death. Guffrey. By the way, guys, I can't say names. I'm pretty bad with certain words. Just
why you got me, man. This is why you got me.
This is why Shane. I have a pretty gnarly speech impediment, and I work really hard to have to read these articles. So sorry about that. There have been fresh calls for President Donald Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi to fulfill their promise of releasing the full Jeffrey Epstein file list after the death of Virginia Guffrey. And I'm just going to scroll down here to the part that we all care about. Right here. The rollout of the documents, which was first given to political commentators at the White House hours earlier in binders that read "The Epstein Files, Phase 1," showed the administration's penchant for showmanship and preference for conservative influencers with large social media following. The Justice Department didn't post them on its website until hours later, along with a note downplaying their significance, of course. The first phase of declassified files largely contains documents that have been previously leaked but never released in a formal capacity by the U.S. government. The documents did not satisfy online sleuths eager for fresh details about Epstein's crimes and his connections to famous people, which have long been a subject of intense media scrutiny. Bondi suggested in a scathing letter to FBI Director Kash Patel that more records were recently discovered. She ordered the FBI to hand over the full and complete Epstein files to her by Friday morning and directed Patel to conduct an immediate investigation into why her order to the FBI to turn over documents were not followed. The second wave is yet to still be released. This was months ago now. You guys understand this, right?
There's nothing.
This was months ago.
I don't think there's anything to release. And if you say there's nothing, it makes you look like you're hiding it even more. I mean, they're screwed either way on this. You should never walk into a situation that you don't know the answer to and promise something that you may not be able to promise. And that's what Pam Bondi learned as a brand new person in charge over there.
Yeah. We had a designer once that was working for us. Really nice guy. And when he first started designing, I would send him something. I would send him like a link to like our Dropbox and be like, "Hey, can you start working on this? I already started the design," right? And he would say, "Already started. I'll have it finished soon." And I would let him get away with that because I knew that there was no way he started because it was still uploading from my computer to Dropbox when he said that. I feel like the politicians do that a lot. Like before even checking the work or what's going on, they would rather have the headline and the showmanship than actually deliver on what they say. And it's not just Republicans or Democrats. It's like it's most politicians are this way. And so they sort of fib their way, assuming they'll get something to talk about.
I don't think that's what happened here. I don't think it was a fibbing the way. I think it was Pam Bondi assuming that she was going to be given what she was expecting. I think it's naivety. I think it's lack of experience at this level. She doesn't realize. She's like, holy shit. Is it possible there's nothing? That was on nobody's mind.
Right.
Right. They're hiding it for sure. That's what I've been told.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
How is there nothing?
Because you just destroy it.
So
Here's
the
our
evidence was there, but
Fire.
the corrupt FBI or corrupt elements of the FBI that had the evidence just destroyed it. And now there's nothing to show.
Well, they're part of the process that got, okay, let's say he was murdered in prison.
Right.
Okay. And let's say some Bond villain was able to get him murdered. Obviously, that Bond villain has something to do with the CIA, FBI, is involved in some sort of way. And I'm sure their team somehow managed to get all the information and then have a nice little bonfire after they hung his ass.
Yeah.
So that's what
this is like a long episode of The Blacklist at this point. I'm just waiting for Raymond Reddington to pop out and be like, I was behind it the whole time.
I don't think it's impossible at all. If the people in charge have control of it. Now, why would you save the evidence? The only reason you would save the evidence is if somebody else did it.
Is if you actually you were doing your actual job and you were moral and you worried about the things like justice and what's right. Right.
Yeah, no, 100% true.
Remember, and we're saying he allegedly didn't commit suicide. But if you look at, just for the YouTube gods, if you look at all the evidence, I suggest you go look at all the evidence around his suicide and make your own opinion. Our opinion, based on all the overwhelming evidence.
Well, just ask yourself this one question. What does it benefit him to commit suicide?
Right.
What is the personal benefit to him?
Right.
Okay. What? Let's say you get in prison and people want to kill you for who you are. Well, you're still going to die either way.
Right.
So there's really no benefit to it other than, I'm sorry. Granted, it's not factual, I guess. But if you're ever leaning to some way, then come on, give me a break. But think about
look at the deals. Look at the details. Think about how the cameras were turned off. Specifically,
the guards were asleep. Cameras were turned off.
Right. His roommate was taken for some medical thing.
Cell.
Literally, everything was removed. There was no way to monitor him or to see anything for this brief amount of time in which he committed suicide. And there's no way for him to have known that all those things were off and the guards weren't watching and all this stuff.
And on top of it, I think Steven Crowder tried to do it to himself to see if it could be done and couldn't.
Yeah, you can't, and you can't actually do the deed from the length of the bed with how tall he was. It's not possible.
Right. So
you're gonna pass out before you even die.
So bad people who do bad things don't keep the evidence around to find out. And if all the people are gone that were involved, now there might be people out there who know about that list or know who was on it, but the moment they say anything or if they don't have any proof, it's their word against somebody else's. And are they willing to sacrifice their own life, their family's lives, even if they don't agree anymore? No. Same thing happened with JFK. People who weren't willing to whistleblow, they all end up eventually dying off. And so I don't think there's any info on JFK. I don't think there's any info on this. And I don't know if we'll ever find out about the guy who tried to kill Trump, but it's just very strange that, we've got all this info on school shooters and we know everything about every detail of their lives, but we don't know about this guy who tried to kill Trump. There's literally nothing has ever come out other than he was in a BlackRock ad. Strange. And he had FBI agents, somehow was engaged or involved in him. And there were phone calls back and forth and oh shit, who was at his house that night that turned away people? They weren't actually cops in plain clothes. What is going on? Right.
So there's so much.
There's so much that is weird.
There's so much insanity. It's like watching a movie. Like another part of that movie, I just realized something. Virginia Giuffre, an alleged victim of Jeffrey Epstein, has died by suicide. Giuffre also accused Prince Andrew of sexual misconduct. Her family announced this in a heartfelt statement. So I also find it a little odd that this person who didn't take her own life for 17 years or whatever it was, decided around now to do that?
I mean, was Prince Andrew being potentially prosecuted? Was something cooking? Was there a reason to off her at this point?
It says Prince Andrew has always vehemently denied these allegations. He agreed to an out-of-court settlement with Guthrie in 2022, reportedly worth $16 million, but made no admission of liability. So wait a minute. So a long, long time ago, this happened. He paid her in an out-of-court settlement $16 million to drop a lawsuit against him.
Mm-hmm.
So she is effectively very wealthy.
Right.
And then another 3 or 4 years later, after all that money came in from Andrew, she lost her life to suicide after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and trafficking.
Listen, we can.
I'm not saying it's not possible, but it seems sus that she waited 17 years, got a bunch of money, and then did it.
I would argue that having a bunch of money would make you more prone to suicide. So,
hey, Shane,
access to drugs, access to alcohol.
Shane, I wouldn't know.
Well, true, but I would say that sometimes when you get it, be careful getting everything you wish for, because it can change your life significantly. But I don't see the benefit of killing her. I don't see the benefit on either side. Her story's been told. She's already said everything that she can. There's no pending court cases.
That's true.
Unless she had some reason, like I said, if the evidence is gone, what's the point? But of course, conspiracy theorists will probably spin this into it as well.
I mean, yeah, that's the first thing I thought of. For some reason, I thought it was like an older person that passed away or something. Then I was like, wait a minute.
Like
a 38-year-old woman.
Also mentally could be suffering from everything that happened to her, and maybe she just, imagine being, sex trafficked over and over and over again. It may be difficult to even live with that. And also knowing that there's not going to be any justice for you. Yeah, you got all this money, but as everyone knows, well, I don't know. I think money can make you happy, but most people tell you money can't make you happy. It just depends on who you are as a person.
Well, there's a famous quote by Ben Affleck in the movie, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it.
Boiler Room?
Boiler Room. Thank you. You know exactly what I'm about to say.
I do, yeah.
He goes, people say money doesn't make you happy. Look at the fucking smile on my face, honey. Ear to ear.
Yeah, well, my favorite one is from Tombstone, and it's when the sheriff tells him, how can you live, with basically allowing this terrible things to happen? And, you should feel guilty. He's like, well, I already have the guilt, and I should have the money too.
So, that's a really good line. Okay. Let's talk about, I think I'm going to talk about, no one's talking about this. So
I love this. Not really knowing what we're going to talk about. And you just kind of like pull it up, man. It's like,
I know what we're talking about. Like,
no, I like it. It's like,
what happened was, I did put like 4 stories in there that we were for sure going to talk about, but I also had like 15 that I had not decided on yet.
No, but I like it. I got to be on my toes. I like this.
What's happening is as the show is progressing, I'm realizing that some of the stories I want to talk about have no connection. And so we're just going to go a different direction. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, before you continue on, I just want to say thank you and welcome to Ben Henniger, who is a brand new cast member. Thanks for becoming a cast member.
Yeah.
Glad to have you on board.
And if you want to be a member, click the join button bottom left. What do members get, Shane? I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Breaking news. That's all we can offer right now. Aside from the support, what we do is whenever there is a big story, like the Epstein files, the tariff thing, whenever there's a big story that happens, instead of you waiting a week or waiting for some other influencer to talk about it or whatever, we're going to go live within an hour of that story's drop. We're just going to go live, and it's just going to be for members only. And those videos, those streams will never make it to the public. Maybe some clips of that might, but that stream won't, and it's just for members only. And so, and we get to actually talk to you guys about it. Like it's a conversation. It's not just
we're talking directly to you guys.
Yeah.
So.
And Archmage is right. I'll also send you feet pics if you're into that. I mean,
Wait, Jillian H has a good one here. My dad likes to say, money may not make you happy, yet it can buy you something so close to it, you won't know the difference. So I like that
point. Like feed pics. All right. Shane, let me ask you a question.
Oh,
When was the last time you bought a coffee or anything from Starbucks?
it's been a while.
So I actually did it like yesterday.
Oh, I make them good at home.
Yeah, I have the Starbucks app. It's actually my wife's app. And I made sure to tell her to load her app with money.
Okay.
When instead of buying something from the counter or through the drive-through, load the app first.
Yeah, you get points.
And when you load the app, you actually get double points.
Yes,
So
I know that.
What she doesn't know is that her 2 coffees a week that she buys from Starbucks,
Yeah.
and my kids, matcha teas that they get,
Sure.
actually fund me completely for free.
I love it.
And I'm able to get 3 coffees, regular coffees, a week
Wow.
because the points add up. But what
what's funny?
What I didn't know is that in buying those coffees, I was supporting slavery.
See, I was about to say something really great. I'm glad you said that first. I was about to say, you're the reason I like to be invested into Starbucks because people still buy Starbucks, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't even like Starbucks. What I do like about Starbucks is that my kids and my wife like it. And so that means I can bribe them with Starbucks.
Mm.
And it's a fairly low investment, even though a regular coffee is wildly overpriced. A matcha tea at $5, a venti matcha tea is actually not bad. That's hard to make at home. So
I don't give a shit. It's too much money.
I mean, it is too much. However, Starbucks workers in Brazil are facing slave-like conditions while harvesting coffee.
Let me tell you. Duh.
Yeah.
Duh. No shit.
Right.
Hey, rest of the world, that's kind of how it works.
That's the problem. And this is the same thing with China. You think that you're just like, regular people working in factories. They're working for like pennies a day, bro. Maybe they're not called slaves, but you know what? They made $6 that entire day. There are nets built into the structure of these buildings so that, and they're called this, suicide nets, so that people who are so depressed at the bleakness and total lack of life don't commit suicide.
Yeah, and you know why they made $6? Because they work 12 hours. They make 50 cents an hour, bro.
Yeah, it's not slavery. They're making money for an hourly wage. It's slavery. It's slavery. It's the minimum amount that you can pay someone and not call it slavery. It's insane. So, and that's in China, but that's not just China. A lot of places all over the world are doing this, especially in these third world countries. Look, I get it. You want your cheap this is expensive coffee, but you want your cheap stuff. You want a cheap iPhone or a cheap whatever.
By the way, let's be clear. It's not our fault.
It's not our fault.
Okay, it's not our fault that this is the way it is. When I was in the Philippines, I mean, I saw people fight over a bag of rice, dude. We can't save the world, okay? But I will say that the people who are making money off of the beans, so does Starbucks own the plantation in Brazil?
We're about to find out. I'm gonna read the article.
Oh, let's hear it. Okay, let's hear the story.
Yeah, Shane's right though. It's not our fault, but this is a geo corporate political thing, and it's sort of like we sort of support it even without knowing.
Oh, 100% support it. But if you don't support it, then there's no ulterior option.
Yeah. So
that's the problem.
Oh well,
we allowed it.
I won't get my coffee from Starbucks. Where do you think the beans from Folgers come from?
Exactly, same.
So let's talk about Starbucks first.
Colombia.
Farm workers in Brazil claim they were subjected to slave-like conditions while harvesting coffee for Starbucks, accusing the global beverage giant in a lawsuit of human trafficking, child slavery, and forced labor. No, full stop. They're naming Starbucks because Starbucks is a multi-billion international company.
Of course.
But the workers that were harvesting coffee, they weren't just harvesting coffee for Starbucks. There's about 12 other brands that aren't being brought up that farm harvests for.
Of course not. That's not how the media works.
Right.
There is no fairness in media. It's who do I target?
Right. The group International Rights Advocates filed the class action lawsuit Thursday in Washington, D.C. federal court on behalf of 8 of the workers. Conditions were so bad that there was little training on the dangerous machinery involved in coffee harvesting. At least 2 workers died from accidents, and there were at least 9 amputations. Jesus. Where'd you lose your arm? Vietnam? The great,
it was like that.
The great Picky War.
Listen, it's like that anywhere you do anywhere you do production. In our country, you know how many people died in the mines, in the coal mines and on the lines and at the auto factories and lost digits? I mean, that's pretty normal, actually.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the term canary in the coal mine?
Yeah.
You know where it came from, right?
Yeah, you got to take a bird in there in case you had a gas leak and you're like, bap.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically the canary, it would be in a cage, and it would be a few feet in front of the workers, and they would watch the canary when they were going down the caves. If the canary suddenly died, they knew there was a pocket of methane or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And they would turn around. It's such an interesting thing that people say, and most people have no idea where it comes from. But it's so clever, the low tech, like just get a bird that is super susceptible to,
Hey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's how they were checking in that movie too.
And it's really bright, so they can see it in the dark. If
If
it falls off its perch,
if it's laying down, you got it.
Yeah. This is what happens in Brazil. The workers spent grueling hours harvesting coffee from 5 a.m. to dusk, and once went 40 days without being paid. By the way, I've gone 40 days without being paid. Am I a slave?
Who's running the plant?
Right. No.
I can promise you it's not Starbucks.
It's not Starbucks
running the plant. It's that country running the plant.
Right. Yeah, it actually doesn't say who's running it. It's not Starbucks, though.
Of course it doesn't, because if they want to point the finger at Starbucks, not at whatever country is benefiting from the money that Starbucks is paying them.
Yeah, it doesn't say. It actually doesn't say who's running the plant.
Shocker. Let me look it up. See if I can find it.
Brazil is the world's leading coffee producer, supplying nearly half the world's. Oh my God, that's crazy. The union representing Starbucks workers in the U.S. said this is yet another example of Starbucks saying one thing and doing another. I mean, surprise, surprise, bro. But the reason I brought this up is it brings up a larger point. Like, where are we getting lithium? Let's talk about the stuff that all of us use every day. Like, it's easy.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. So, just breaking news. Antonio Franceschini, known as the Coffee Baron, owns the largest coffee farms in Brazil. Okay, so where's that guy from? Brazil. Just heads up there, okay? Go ahead.
Yeah. Why aren't you guys suing that guy?
Well, I mean, listen, maybe we're buying the coffee from him, right. But are we supposed to be responsible? Hey, how are you treating your workers? I mean, no, right. You need their own government needs to be in charge of how they're treating their workers.
And this is the problem with with these third world and even first world countries that don't treat their citizens like they're first world. These countries have this form of government that is so oppressive, like China, Brazil. Like, people talk a lot about how great socialism could be, but every time it's tried, it ends up being communism for some reason. And
because it's easier to be in charge. It's easier to rule people under communism because they don't get to decide, hey, I'm going to be better than I currently am. They are stuck in whatever class they are in. It's very easy to rule people under communism.
The second a human gets involved with the concept of socialism, it ends up being communism.
Absolutely.
And we as Americans and other countries tend to support that by mistake. Now, a lot of people talk about diamonds, blood diamonds, people working in the diamond mines. I don't have any diamonds. I think I bought one diamond when I got married. We're not a diamond people. I don't care about diamonds. So
well, people drink coffee all over the world. I mean,
Right,
you could
right.
make an argument that rich people buy diamonds, but let me tell you who buys coffee. Fucking everyone.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, I don't feel responsible for blood diamonds, but or ethically, whatever. I do feel, however, responsible, and everyone in the world should, for things like coffee, the batteries in your phones, because lithium mines are even more dangerous than beans, and they're harvested under insane conditions. I saw a dude came on Rogan. We was talking all about the lithium mines. He went down there and do a documentary, and there are like kids as young as like 6 years old working with their bare hands in the dirt to dig out these harsh chemicals. It's insane.
Let me ask you, what's the solution?
I mean, we need to stop supporting the governments that support this kind of behavior. And that means things are going to get more expensive than fucking boo-hoo.
No, not more expensive. Perhaps impossible to get.
Okay, then better technology then.
So if you say, listen, we're not going to buy coffee from Brazil,
okay,
Colombia is just going to up its price.
Well, no, it's so ready. And so if we can't get it from Brazil or Colombia, then someone with an enterprising individual can grow it here. Because it does
here. No,
it can grow. It could be grown here.
Coffee is a.
I follow a YouTuber that has an entire coffee farm in the middle of like Wisconsin.
Not the amount that you're going to need to supply coffee.
Sure, but you can. We have the technology to mimic the conditions of Brazil if we need to. If we really want to do it, we can.
My point is we cannot solve all the world's problems. So you can come in and say, we imagine our government coming in and saying, "Hey, Brazil, we are going to tell you how you run your people."
Right.
That's part of the problem.
But my issue is that everyone complains. A lot of these liberals, these progressives, that these bleeding hearts will complain about Elon mimicking a jester on stage, or complain about the most minor of naughty words, or something was mean to someone or whatever, but they completely ignore the atrocities of Starbucks and Apple and going back to China and all the corporations that they support when they buy their iPhones and get their soy latte, venti, whatever cups.
But once those companies, once they have a reason to go against them, that's the first thing they're going to attack. So listen, people will bitch about anything if they think it'll forward their agenda or what they believe. So it's just the fact that Starbucks isn't anti-left. In fact,
so
Starbucks
as long as Starbucks is on their team, they completely ignore human atrocities.
Why do you think all these corporations are like locked into DEI and we're all about progressive? Why? Because don't look at us is why. Don't look at what we're doing.
Don't look at us.
Right.
Don't back off, bro. Back off. Don't look at us.
And by the way, you're not gonna you people will not like the consequences of your pocketbook when we decide to fix everything, because the world is in totally different place than the United States and some of the more first world countries. We're in a totally different place. You know why Starbucks is paying so cheap for their bean? Because they're paying their employees $20 an hour.
Right.
To go make your coffee, to pour your coffees, and they're still bitching about not have. Hey, I can't have a living wage off of $20 an hour. Well, guess what? Starbucks was never supposed to be a permanent job for your ass.
It's not supposed to be a permanent job. You are 53 years old. Why are you still working here?
Because all the fucking manufacturing jobs are in other countries.
And that's true. Yep.
That's why everybody's.
This is supposed to be a job for young 20-something-year-olds. Why are you still here? You have 3 kids. Go home.
Yeah. There's no place else to work.
No one over 45 should be a barista. No one. There should be a rule.
No place else to go.
I get it.
They got no place else to go.
Yeah, that's the job. That's the best job they can get. I get it.
Because we send all the jobs away.
Well, then we have this. People spraying buildings with anti-Doge, anti-Tesla. The same people that were, praising Tesla 10 years ago have now caused the stock to plummet 71% because of his role with Trump and working with Doge to try to kill, waste, and fraud. These exact people that you and I both criticized 5 years ago for talking about how great they were because, I'm sorry, you couldn't see it, because they were buying electric cars, not realizing that they were plugging their electric cars into their home grid and that the power that was fueling their electric cars was coming from dirty coal.
Yeah.
These people are now attacking Tesla because how dare Elon Musk support Trump and work with Doge? An incredible plummet. And my thing is, I think that it's going to recover. I do. Oh, I don't think that it's going to stay there. And I also think I see the criticisms, how the people he's aligned himself with are mostly, not electric car drivers.
Let me tell you, their earnings came in and their profits plummeted. Their stock price went up.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Because more
people know. People know.
But my problem is you're attacking Tesla. And who are these people that don't have fucking jobs that are going out there and spray painting Doge offices? I don't get it. Who has the time to do this? Who are you? Do you not have a job? I don't get it.
They don't need to have jobs. You live with mom and dad. We'll worry about that when they die.
Some of these people are older. Like, you see him, like, the guy has gray hair. He's graying beard. And he's out there. Anti-Doge. What are you supposed to be doing right now? Is this your life? I don't understand.
Tell you, if they're a government employee, then I'm okay with it.
No, you can listen. Protest all you want, but firebombing people's Teslas, spray painting buildings that don't belong to you. This is not protesting. This is vandalism. Period. The end. You can protest all you want, bro, but the second you destroyed someone else's property, you're a criminal.
Yeah, but I don't like the whole. I tell you what, I don't like. I don't like the whole Justice Department like coming out and saying, you're going to be a terrorist if you destroy a Tesla. That shit's got to go back down to the states and local law enforcement. That doesn't need to be a Department of Justice thing. And the only reason it is because Elon's on the team. Let's just be honest.
But it is technically terrorism. That's what it is.
If you go and
you're planning bombs on someone's Tesla.
Well, if you're planning bombs, that's different.
To make a point,
that's a different case. But that's not who they're talking about. They're saying if you damage a Tesla, we're coming after you.
Sure, maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what was it filtered from. But the people it came from people literally setting cars on fire because they don't like the administration.
Well, like I said, I still think that's a local police.
Do you know what happens when you set an electric car on fire?
Well,
it becomes a bomb.
Let me ask you a question. Is every person that, even if they're not attacking Tesla, do they all get FBI treatment if they light a car on fire? No.
Why are they lighting the car on fire? Motives are important here. No, because terrorism is all about motive. What are you doing it for?
They don't like Elon Musk. That's why.
Right. So why would an insurgent from Al Qaeda plant a bomb on the road?
You mean in their own country?
No, like in here. Why would they bomb the building?
They wouldn't. But why? Well, because they're anti-America. Right.
So why would someone set a Tesla on fire?
Well, it's one thing if they were attacking government buildings or they were that's one thing. But they're attacking Elon Musk's, and these are individuals, and the police need to come in and arrest their asses as soon as it's happening. What's happening is they're having these fucking demonstrations. No, this is what's happening. Right. They're having demonstrations and nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah.
So they have these demonstrations, and during the demonstration, some young people do some stupid shit. Instead of having cops there to be like, okay, you guys want to peacefully demonstrate? That's your right. But the moment you do something, you're going to jail. And so we need to
you have the right to protest
local police.
You know, that's right. I mean, local police is great, but like I understand destroying someone's property because you ideologically disagree with them, and threatening their lives as terrorism.
We have to keep the federal government. We cannot. This is part of the dangerous line that we walk. We can't allow the federal government to get involved in everything that goes against their agenda.
Completely agree.
That's when you give an argument to the left.
I completely agree.
So they cannot, just because Elon's being, people don't like Elon and people are destroying some of his property. The federal government needs to empower local law enforcement and say, look, this is your job. Go do it. You hold them accountable and say, look, if you don't go and arrest these people, then you're going to lose funding. And then you make it very obvious that local state police aren't doing their job because whatever reason. And then you make it a left problem. Instead of it being a right problem, now you make it a left problem. So, and that's what they're not doing. They're trying to control everything from a.
I understand. What I'm trying to explain is the definition of terrorist.
Look, you could call anything terror. No.
I'm just using the actual definition here. Okay, this is what it says.
Go ahead.
The unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. That's terrorism.
Sure, but you could call.
Is that not what they're doing?
Who are they trying to scare, bro?
They are unlawfully using violence and intimidation against Tesla owners, which are civilians, in pursuit of political aims.
Who are they trying to scare?
People that are driving Teslas.
Guess who's driving Teslas, fucker? Everybody on the left. So let me ask you a question.
I get it, bro, but I'm saying the fucking definition of terrorism is exactly what they're doing.
Elon. They're not trying to scare the left.
No.
They're not trying to scare drivers. They're trying to scare Elon.
No, it's political aims. They hate the right. They hate Trump. They hate Elon.
Don't give them credit for being organized, man.
I'm not saying they're organized. I'm saying the definition of fucking terrorism is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation against civilians in the pursuit of political aims.
Stop using that. That's not what I'm saying. The whole point is they're a mindless mob. They don't care. They're not targeting somebody. They're not thinking. They're not critically going, well, we're going to scare these people to make them do this, to make them do that. It's not that. It is very simply to bring down Elon Musk. And they figure if they can destroy the one business where all of his money comes from, then they can destroy him.
And I get that. All I'm saying is that by definition, what these individuals are doing is terrorism.
But I wouldn't lob them in with fucking Middle Eastern terrorists.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You're right. I would not lob them in with Al Qaeda or whatever.
All right, and that's what I don't like.
No, I'm all about the federal, and also the federal government should not have. They should have as little control as possible. Which means you're right. They need to go to the states and be like, "Hey, fix your shit."
Exactly. Hold them accountable for not holding the law accountable.
Fix it. Stop.
That's what the rule is, right?
Like, people are getting hurt because you aren't doing your goddamn job. Stop it.
How about Elon Musk sues the governments of these states that aren't doing it, right? By the time that gets to the Supreme Court, he's going to win. Right. And I guarantee the states are going to start doing something about it when they start losing a bunch of damn money and politicians start getting unelected because their schools aren't being paid for.
That's true.
There is a way to deal with this, but it's not the Justice Department stepping in to protect Elon Musk.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and we need less big government. And things need to be smaller. Communities running and managing themselves. The Fed should not be as involved. To be fair, though, it's not this administration's fault that the federal government is so involved. It's actually the previous administration's fault. And
everyone.
And the last 25 years of and it's not just left, but also the right, continually growing the federal government to the point where they have way too much control in everyday life.
More power. Why? Because everybody wants more power.
Oh,
everybody wants a bigger legacy.
And with the second you give them power and you go, oh, it's just for a brief time, they're never giving it back.
Right. The greatest presidents that we've ever had are the ones who gave power back to the states, and those presidents are never remembered.
Right.
So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. E.J. Clopson did say, I think you meant the term is domestic terrorism. You're right. I apologize.
That's what it is. It's domestic terrorism, 100%. Yeah. But but it's still, and it's political. And they're what they're trying to do though is their ultimate goal is to bring down Elon. I don't think this is an attack on right-wing Tesla owners. It's sad because it's kind of funny because all these Tesla owners you see with them the little signs on the back of their Teslas. Oh, I bought my Tesla before Elon was crazy, or I down with Elon, or right. All these
they're just trying to protect their Teslas.
Who get their Teslas screwed up. But the real reason, the people who bought Teslas were people on the left who wanted energy.
Yeah,
to be saved.
I'm not like, I don't want anyone's property to be destroyed or anyone get hurt, regardless of your ideology. But I'm also not like, I don't really care that much about it. Like, I'm not like, oh no, because these are the same guys the same people that 10 years ago were just smart, smelling their own farts, acting like they're saving the world when that was never happening. And I'm not like, let's destroy the economy and coal roll my giant big rig. I'm just saying you have to be realistic. And the energy you're getting to power your car is coming from dirtier coal than the energy I get than the gas, the unleaded gas I put in my little 4-banger that gets 40 miles to the gallon, dude.
Well, yeah, and the problem is the people who are like, well, that's why we got to do wind farms and solar and all that stuff.
All those things are not only expensive, but have a negative output.
Well, here's the problem. They're too expensive to make it worth it. So the problem is while you're trying to change your entire electric grid or your entire grid to be, somehow reusable energy, you go poor and your country's gone.
It would take 100 years to switch everyone over to an alternative energy source, and we're going to run out of oil before then. Number two, what it costs to actually create a wind farm. Just one wind turbine, okay?
And to maintain it.
Yeah. It's not just the money. We're talking about the cost in the environmental cost. Right. Oil, carbon, what it costs to mine it, ship it, create it, pour the concrete, all of that. All of that environmental cost is more energy than the thing will produce in its roughly 6-year lifespan.
Right.
So to create one of those things, it costs more environmentally, not money-wise, than the amount of energy that it would produce to offset that environmental cost in the 6 years it can run before it needs to be fixed and maintained.
So which means we need to create things that will last 100 years and don't need to continue, like nuclear. Man.
Nuclear is the cleanest energy source we have, and no one's doing it.
Everybody's afraid of it.
Except for China and Russia on the moon. And
I'm just saying, that's the way.
And you know what's wild? You want to know, when you see those wind farms now, do you know why you see them? It's not because environmental climate advocates. It's most of the time you're seeing them because oil companies, it's cheaper to build them out in the middle of nowhere where they're drilling and they need the energy. So they would actually build wind farms to power their oil pumps.
Well, that's why you do see them, and they're all over West Texas.
Yeah.
You can't bat an eye without seeing
because
them.
It's actually it makes sense for them. It's not and then they can then go on their taxes and get a bunch of
and they get money back
from the government for their climate, whatever. And what they're really doing is they're like, actually, it makes more sense to do this than to run power lines to the cities. It's so crazy. The system is so broken and you are so lied to on a daily basis that it drives me nuts trying to explain it. I won't have the words. I don't have the words to explain how silly all this is.
Well, let me tell you, despite everything that we've said to you today and about how bad everything is and how horrible everything is, let me tell you this. This is still the best place to live in the country, in the world, outside of perhaps a couple of small countries that got their shit together better than we do. But trust me when I tell you, you still want to live here. This place is worth fighting for. Be patriotic, believe in freedom and the things that the manifest destiny that our country provides. And hopefully as our generations, we continue to teach our children, and eventually we get to a place where Americans and the world as a whole is in a better place, because that's the hope. That's why we keep doing this every day.
Amen to that. And we're going to wrap this up. Eternal Intelligence did say it's funny how at least 2 or 3 guys created cars that run on water.
Oh, I know.
And they all of a sudden died shortly afterwards. These are true. What he just said is factual. That would have been really environmental clean energy. No money behind it yet. Yep.
Yeah. It's there are stories yet to be told. And this is why transparency is so important. Yeah.
I like this, but I played Farming Simulator, and the solar panels got me tons of money.
We just need better solar panels. We need better batteries is what we need.
Can I tell you, outside of nuclear, there is actually a form of solar that is extraordinarily cost effective. But it's not a panel that absorbs the light with membranes. It's actually a field of mirrors.
Yes.
And those mirrors are controlled with very little power by a little diode that tracks the sun. And they always make sure that the mirrors are facing the sun in a way that reflects onto something called a, oh my God, I'm forgetting what it's called. Basically, it's a pillar that gets
central
hot.
Power system. Yeah.
And that heats water to make steam to create power. That is actually extraordinarily cost effective.
And it's on the way to Vegas if you ever want to see it.
Yep. They cost next to nothing to produce.
Except they take up a lot of space.
But they take up a lot of space. But they don't cost very much. And it's water. There's no waste, nothing. All you got to do is keep the mirrors clean. But no one wants to do that because it's not cool.
Eventually we're going to get there. We're still in the baby steps of this, but listen, until then we need nuclear. I really think that's the answer. People are just too afraid.
Nuclear is the answer. All right, guys, we love you. We're going to be back next week. Don't forget, we're going to do breaking news this week. We're aiming for 2 things, but there's got to be 2 stories that actually matter. So hopefully they do. If you want to become a member, hit that join button in the bottom left. Hit that button, support the team. And if you don't want to become a member and you didn't want to give it, and thank you for the super chats, and you didn't want to give the super chat, but you still want to support us in some way, please consider going to our website, mixtees.com. There's a lot of creators here. Nerdrotic, Podcast, Midnight, all these guys. And our link is right here. Click on the BRANE Show, buy something. And if there's something there, if there's nothing there you want and you have some ideas, then shoot us an email or drop a comment or a chat and we'll consider that.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys for watching us today. You guys are the reason we show up, and I look forward to it every single Saturday because I look forward to your comments. Feel free to chat with us if you didn't get a chance during the live show. Chat with us, and we'll come check out your comments down below. So appreciate you guys. Love you. See you next week.
See you next. Well, him and I will see you next week, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the double feature Stargate SG-1.
That's right. Discord channel.
Adios. Check the Discord out. See you guys later.
Here comes the